Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus, where we talk about all things sales, marketing, and technology. Today, I'm joined with Daniel Bartels, who has a wealth of experience in B2B enterprise sales, working at companies such as Conga, Financial Force, Salesforce, and some other giants. Welcome. How you going, Dan?
Mate, thanks for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here.
All good, all good. I guess, we talked about, how people do sales, and sometimes they're like the used car salesman. They're just like, ugh, yuck. And in fact, I was talking the other day about how I spoke with someone from another software company who may or may not remain nameless. But they basically said, hey, can you convert now? Because I got to meet my quota. So we all know those sales yuckiness, that cringeworthy. So I guess I wanted to get into that, but first, why don't we hear a little bit more just about your experience and sort of where you got to, or how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, look, I've been in sales my entire career. Like I started in sales out of school. So my very first sales job was selling mobile phones for a little shop in West Ryde. I don't think it's still around anymore. But so I went through, retail, one-on-one sales. I evolved into leaving university and thought I'd go and get a grown-up sales job. Having done economics, I went and got a job as an insurance broker for a period, and that wasn't really me. And then evolved into working for one of the Clemenger agencies, managing some large field marketing sales process. So I managed for Optus and for Westfield, a whole bunch of different programs for them. Went and sold both toys and cameras in retail, and then actually stepped into running my own company for a period. So I was an MBA out of Macquarie with my dad, and he's a solicitor, and he threw me a brief, and we ended up buying this company that was a kitchen laundry appliance repair company, and that's kind of how I stepped into tech eventually. So we had to bootstrap and run a sales process for service for people who had broken washing machines or broken appliances. How do we actually sell to them either a new appliance or a service or a spare part, and learning that process and how to actually build that for individuals. But I built that business on the back of Salesforce. And at some point, one of the guys there said, I knew more about that than half their sales guys did. Why wasn't I working for Salesforce? And I said, well, when I sell the company, I'll come and work for you. And that was kind of bootstrapping across into my technology career. And I've now spent the last 15 years working inside originally Salesforce. Then I moved across a couple of their partners, being Financial Force and then Conga, and really stepped into doing a little bit of sales coaching and development and leadership for a number of different organizations. So that sort of was what led me to my career today, and being on the podcast with you now.
Yeah, it's funny the way you kind of like fell into that sort of tech space. It's always interesting to hear people's stories and how they kind of fall into tech, and it's just such a prevalent part of our lives today. So very interesting mix of going from I guess retail consumer goods to then retail, I guess retail services in the sense with the
Yeah, for sure.
white goods and appliances. Yeah. So interesting to hear. Like I've got a CRM background, and I've got that because I was once in the army and I was in intelligence, towards the end of my career. And I like being able to find out things about people and use it, not in a nefarious way, but use it to best effect. What, I guess, how impactful was having those sort of systems for that business at that time?
Oh, crucial. I mean, so when I bought that business, we went from zero because we bought the division of a company that had gone broke, and we basically picked up all of their warranty work. So we went from having no customers on a Friday to on the Monday needing to service about 600,000 clients across Australia.
So that's a small one, yeah.
Yeah, just small. Well, I mean, not obviously all 600,000 were calling today, but there was a significant flow of customers. So how do you deal with if you've got a broken dishwasher, or the ones that are really painful, you've got a broken oven or cooktop, like that's a really painful one to try and repair. That's right, replace, right? If you can't get the right fit outs, the right fit, etc. And I can't eat today, or I can't wash my clothes, or the fridge is leaking all over the floor. So people expected a response, and we'd invested the money and the time and the effort. So how do we deal with that really quickly? But we also then had contractors who were delivering the services for us all across the country. So really quickly learning, how do you deal with a huge inflow of customers who want to know, when I phone back to you in half an hour or tomorrow after booking, I'm expecting that you know all about me. But then our subcontractors doing the work for us, when you send me the work to go and deliver this service, you're meant to have captured all this information and made my job easy. That's why I'm allowed, that's why I'm happy to be a subcontractor. So making that, actually closing that whole loop in the process was critical for our success as an organization. We grew really quickly. And then how do we find out of that some other ways to sell to our customers and provide them with services? So we built some things into our sort of our offering, which was, if we can't repair it, how do we transition you to a new appliance and you haven't lost your money? How do we get the right product for you really quickly? We've made some great retail partnerships. How do we then give you other offerings around, partnering products? So it might be we've just replaced your washing machine. How can we replace your dryer as well, or expand the rest of your products in your home? Like, that was really important for providing great customer service. I don't want to say we got it perfect all the time. No business ever does. But that was, we effectively, we did a great job and sold that business a couple of years later. And it was really about using technology to drive, good performance, good people, and bringing customers back on a regular basis.
Well, not only that, like, you've gone from no leads, and I presume, I don't know how much notice you got between when this was coming down the pipe and when that actually started, but you've gone from no leads to an enterprise system, which normally takes people years to work up to that, to then go into no calls to probably, maybe not the whole 600,000, but you probably got a few thousand straight up in the first month. And then, like you said, with that data flow and the systems, kind of been easy to build, like, all your sales materials or your sales process. And I'd imagine a lot of be on like whiteboard and sketch pads and stuff to begin with.
Absolutely. I mean, we didn't grow slowly. We grew extremely quickly. So we went from 0 to, I think we had 1,000 calls in the first week. We did that. So, we went from the decision of, is there a business here, to let's launch it in 14 days.
Yeah, right.
And it was an absolute, like, jump off the deep end, see if we can make this work. And part of our process was, we had a couple of clients who ended up being our subcontractors, and we wanted to save their businesses. They had some vibrant organizations that we wanted to make sure survived. So it's important for us to kind of give them a launch pad as well, and made less going into what we bought. We've bought the assets of a liquidator. So that was really important for us to make sure we rebuilt these guys' businesses and did a good job of it. So
you've pretty much, from a sales perspective side, you've kind of, at that point, I'm assuming you've got an angry customer already. Their thing is broken. They're calling you in frustration. So not only do you've got to deal with this brand new process, you've got to turn someone around and build what is probably starting off as a negative relationship from day one. What did you do there, and how did you overcome that?
Look, I think one of the pieces that's always held me in good stead throughout my entire sales career is to understand, whenever you're talking to a prospect of any type, either they have a problem that they need a resolution to, or you're opening up a wound they don't know is there yet. How do they do something better? How do they, buy a new product to make their particular deliverable better, their lives better, or their customers' lives better? So in the example of the appliance company, it was exactly as you said. Something's broken, and I need a resolution to that. And the customers would think about how quickly it can be resolved, how conveniently it can be resolved. What's the investment, and their investment was always balanced out against replacing something. I can buy a new one, it can be here within X number of days, but hey, that's a big spend. And often there'd be an emotional investment as well. I spent a lot of money in my mind not so long ago, so this should still be working. So if I can get out of the repair within about 30% of the cost of a new appliance, yeah, okay, I'll go ahead with the repair. And balancing that whole process of saying, well, before we get there, I don't know what's wrong. You can tell me you can tell me the symptoms, but I really don't know until we get there to diagnose it. But how do I give you an option that says, if we get there and it's unrepairable, we can still provide you the resolution to that, and your money is not lost? So that became a really important part of our sales process that we learned. And I think that's critical in any sales process, which is, you're going to invest time, effort, and money with me to help work out the solution to whatever your problem is. You'll never get back the payment of the resolution to their problem being, how do you get out of it with the right type of investment, dollars, time, and effort, and making sure that that's really balanced for them in terms of whatever I've invested along the process. Again, if I'm buying software, I spend a whole bunch of time investigating it. If I'm buying an appliance, I've tried to work out what the outcome will be. So how do I balance those out? Because I'm not going to know till the end that I get the right outcome for it. So I think that became really crucial in our growth.
So I guess, and from the topic of our conversation about, sleazy sales and cringeworthy factor, I presume that, it sounded like you were trying to solve a problem, and it's about the problem, not necessarily about, the person being angry. But quite often, you might have, particularly, it probably more stems from outbound or that sort of sale because you're trying to generate new business, or it's net new logo or something like that. I mean, I know that the person coming to you, they're trying to solve a problem. They're kind of already hot in the moment. They're going to go one way or the other. But in other organizations, it seems more like the sleazy salesperson's trying to get that new deal. They're trying to go buy now and get a free set of steak knives, or calling you 6 times before Sunday to get you over the line. And I think there's a fine balance on that. But where do you see businesses commonly go wrong?
Look, it's funny you ask this. I was literally just talking to a lovely girl I'm doing some coaching with at the moment. She was asking the same question. They're a design company. She's asking me earlier today. And if you think about most services companies, people don't want to experience that sleaziness. But I think that the challenge that people have or organizations have in finding the balance on this is, any organization's got a quota. If you're a dentist, you still sell stuff. You've got to turn over as much as much product or bookings as you can, teeth replacements, whatever it is you do. But in that process, have you done the right work beforehand with that individual client, that they're really comfortable with the outcome they're going to get? And that balances back for an organization saying, I've invested in a sales process, a person, some outsourced people, some marketing, whatever it may be. What are the numbers that I need to get back to make that investment make sense? So if you've built the right engine and you've built a good sales process, then the sleaziness actually evaporates by itself. And what I mean by that is, you've understood the clients that are the right type of fit for you. The clients understand why they're talking to you, and they also understand that there is a process and an end to your investment with them. And again, what I mean by that is, you need to win 10 clients every month of a certain size. You talk to 20 clients to get to the 10. It should take 5 to 6 weeks for them to validate that you're the right type of partner for them. If you're already at 8, 9 weeks and that client really doesn't understand how to get to the end, then, and the end could be no. The end could be, hey, you're not the right fit for us, or it's not the right time, or this is not the right solution. Then it's really okay for you to exit that conversation with that customer and say, hey, listen, I need to go and invest my time and effort and dollars elsewhere, because this is obviously not, working for the two of us. And it's not a bad thing. They may come back. But I think that sleaziness comes out of when people are trying to close a deal or end a conversation for it to make someone purchase prematurely. Haven't done the work early enough. You haven't defined the right type of customers. The example we were talking earlier about a software guy trying to close a deal at the end of the month because it's about hitting their quota, hitting their number.
Yeah.
That's all about them as a salesperson. That's got nothing to do with, is the customer does the customer have the right information? Is it the right time? Is it the right solution that solves a problem that they have? Solves a problem that the salesperson has. It's got nothing to do with the customer.
Hmm.
So if you set up your process, you're really clear on what you solve for your customers, then getting to the end of that conversation is a natural conclusion to the way you deal with that customer. And that could happen in a conversation. If you think of a waitress, wait person, it's a sales process. I've given you a menu and you're clear on you want to buy for lunch, or you're hungry, great, you're in the right type of restaurant. If I don't eat seafood and I didn't realize that I've walked into a seafood restaurant and I can't solve the fact that you're hungry, doesn't matter how good a salesperson I am, you don't eat seafood, you're not going to buy here. This isn't the right fit. Hey, great. There's a burger restaurant down the road. Hey, I'll ring ahead and see if you can get a table, right?
Hmm.
But if you eat seafood, great. Here's the menu. Here's how we resolve it for you. You don't like prawns. Hey, here's the fish menu. And we've resolved that problem for the customer. But, and how do I upsell you? How do I get you the best, most profitable dish on the menu? Like, all that's part of the same sales process. And it's no different whether you're selling in a restaurant, you're selling software, you're selling services. It's getting that right fit and getting everybody to the end of the conversation without it being premature. And that takes away that cringiness, in my opinion.
I think there used to be all these like names for it, and it was these like styles of things, like the calculator close, the I can't even think of the names of them now. The upsell, the cross sell, the buy, like these like subtle words using like trying to brainwash the other person to change their mind. Everyone's a conscious being, and just because you say buy now, you must be ready to sign the contract, doesn't mean you're actually going to trick them into getting them to buy now. I know that a lot of like sales coaches and people in the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s were trying to use these methods because that was what they considered I guess interesting in the marketplace. So maybe they were able to sell their book or their training materials because people went, oh, that's a good trick, I should use that. When really everyone's heard it all, everyone's sick of it, everyone thinks it's stupid. And when they hear that, they just roll their eyes and walk out the door. I kind of like where sales is going in this sense. That what you're talking about is that if you talk to enough people, that you'll catch someone at the right time at the right place, and maybe answer their questions fast enough to be able to get them over the line.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of nuance in that conversation piece, though, that anyone in sales or in business needs to understand. Most customers will walk in the door. Again, going back to that example of walking into a seafood restaurant. I don't know what's good on the menu. I know. I'll regularly ask a wait person and say, "Hey, listen, what would you recommend? Like, you give me a menu of all these things. What's the chef really good at? Like, what are you guys known for? I want to have a great experience here." Most customers walk into most organizations and have no idea what the problem actually is, how to solve it, how much money they should spend, and how to optimize that experience and make sure it's the best experience for them out of whatever they're going to do by purchase experience, right? So you as a salesperson, there is an aspect of getting someone to the end of making the decision. There is a process even for that wait person to say, hey, this is how you make a decision on a menu. Best experience is when you choose one of the entrees, when you choose a main, and actually don't choose dessert now. Wait till the end, because if you're full and you've already ordered dessert, the owner of the restaurant knows actually you'll be disappointed because you ordered more food than you wanted. You're not going to come back again because your experience is I walked out too full, or I walked out having paid too much money and I didn't eat all the food. And just like every business, repeat customers are important. So understanding that experience is in the salesperson. So I think that's a really critical piece for people to get an understanding of in this sales processes and techniques. It's not just about being in the right place at the right time. Great salespeople create great deals. Great salespeople find the right customers. Great salespeople, or maitre d's in the restaurant example, work out how do I make sure that every single night all the tables are full. In fact, how do I make sure that I can have 3 sittings, not 1? How can I convince the boss that we should open at lunchtime and breakfast and increase the revenue for the organization? Or how should we open our second restaurant? Like that's what great salespeople do. And that's what I think differentiates, good organizations and great sales teams from not so great.
Yeah, yeah. So you've kind of headed into it, but the next question, I guess, is what are some strategies for doing it better?
I've got a core strategy that I try to deploy in both any of my deals, but my team's deals and when I coach. And I think there's a really simple concept that most people forget. And one day I will, people should watch out. I'm going to write a book on this, but if you want everybody on the same page, the better damn well be a page. That happens as an individual for yourself. If you want to understand what I just said, what's my plan with this customer? What am I trying to sell them? What's the problem I'm trying to resolve? If I don't document that and I'm not really clear, then I'll jump between ideas and I'll jump between concepts. Experience for a customer becomes disjointed. How do I then communicate that to the individual customer? If I'm just selling one-on-one, it's just me selling to you. How are we really clear what we said in this meeting, in this podcast, in the email? Are we, and is that consistent over time? If there are multiple people in the conversation on my side or on your side, how have I captured what everybody's problems and needs are? And how have I clarified and ordered the most important ones? How have I been really clear on what it is we're going to try and resolve for you and things that we're not going to do? You're really clear that when you buy the solution, it doesn't do these things. I think of the cars. If this is not a truck, it doesn't carry 4 tons. If your objective of buying this is you want to be able to carry 4 tons of the dirt, we've got some great trucks out the back. But if you're just focusing on, hey, listen, I want to be able to drive with the top down, I've got some roadsters, and you buy a roadster, but don't expect to put 4 tons in the back. Be really clear on what the solution does or doesn't do. Otherwise, you're going to disappoint your customers. Money. And to me, it's like that documentation, like start there. Like that's the core central process. Then you can start to build around it. What are the other techniques? What are the other things that are important for us? How do I communicate that to a customer? How do I find more of the right customers that fit what is really important for me? And I think that's the other pieces. So that, the 2 core strategies that I always deploy is, again, that, put it on the page. The second one is not what are the customers that I want to chase? What are the customers that I don't want? What are the things that I'm not? And I think I see too many either individuals starting in a sales team or teams starting up or businesses starting up. It might be a new division. It might be a whole business. Really not defining the things that you're not. Everybody's really good at focusing on the things that we think we are. That then leaves all this open space for, but we could be that too. And I think that's where everyone gets distracted and tries to do too many things in too many places, and you end up being a master of nothing.
I definitely understand what you mean there, because not only did I have that conversation literally half an hour before we started the podcast, I also had that conversation with virtually everyone I network with when I'm talking about, who's a good introduction for you? And then like, who don't you want to meet? Who's someone that if I send them your way, that is going to waste your time, frustrate you, and damage our relationship? And people are shocked when I ask them that. I'm like, well, we're both worthwhile, protecting each other's time. What's something that is just going to be an absolute waste? And I agree. Like if anything's possible, then it's not like Disneyland. Like anything's possible. So it's really needs to be reined in, and you make a very good point there. So obviously the landscape is changing, and we've got AI, maybe Skynet, who knows, coming out. We've got talk of ChatGPT 5 now. And I think back to, if you've seen the latest number 4 of Terminator, they get trapped in Skynet, and you see that the age of this thing is growing as it's getting smarter. Don't worry, I'm no doomsdayer, but I think it's funny all the same. It's definitely going to have an impact. I don't think, was it the more things change, the more they stay the same. But even though, yes, we've got this technically we've got faster horses now, which has kind of happened through the ages with the train, with, the way, steel and stone and all that sort of stuff. Where do you see sales going, in particular with AI?
It's funny. I was having a conversation on my podcast a couple of weeks ago with a great guy called Will Atkin, and we were talking about this. And I think a thing to recognize about AI, to understand what it's actually doing behind the scenes. AI is taking all the information it can find on a particular topic and saying, if I've got 10,000 data points on any particular topic, I'm now going to take an average of the data points, and I'm going to not give you the worst, but I'm also not going to give you the best. I'm going to give you the average point of all of that data set. And I think, and while it produces, a good output for what you need, what it's not producing you is the best output, because it can't, because it actually has to take those ends of the graph out of the conversation. So I think part of the way to understand, and now what it does do is it brings it up into the middle, and it says, okay, I've got these are the average expectations that you'll want. I used it earlier today to produce an agenda for a session I'm going to run. And when I looked at it, I went, it's exactly the starting point I needed to build on. And I think that's what great people are going to use AI technology for. It's where it's the new starting point. It's so if you're not using it, you're missing a whole bunch of the, just getting you operational and moving you to the middle, but it's not going to get you to the top of the pile. And I think the biggest challenge where everyone's going to have over time is that moves the average up a little bit, right? And that's going to continue to evolve, but it's never going to get you to the top of the pile. And I think we're always going to be the difference between any engagement. The human is going to add that flavor, that additional thinking process to get to the top of the pile.
So AI is the super highway to being average.
Yeah, I think it really is. I mean, that's where, and I think it's going to be the stock standard, saying, well, everybody can perform at that level. So if you're below that, I'm going to exclude you altogether. But what I'm really looking for is how have you added more than that? How have you added significantly more? I mean, if you think about it in sales processes, right? We've built CRMs are now kind of 25, 30 years old. If you're not using a CRM well in your business to manage, your customer data, your sales data, your customer service information, your project information or products you sell, you're behind the eight ball. It's like not having a website. You wouldn't think about it today. It's like not having an email address. Yet, if you haven't got those things now inside CRM, now that I've got all that information, being able to identify probably the best target clients is not that complex. It's a little bit of work, but it's not a huge amount of work. It's never going to do for you is pick up the phone and write an email for you and get that customer to actually want to talk to you. Because if everybody can do it, all of a sudden we're all being bombarded with the same email, the same message, because it's the average coming out of AI. That now becomes spam. That now becomes noise, and I exclude that. And what's going to cut through will be a bunch of different activities.
I think when you see like all the things on the news with all these YouTubers doing all these stunts, people have a habit of being a little bit jarring and trying to, grab attention. And I think that, AI might struggle to do that, or then that becomes the average, and then being normal is abnormal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think now, when Gmail first launched, spam kind of wasn't a thing to the stage that it is today. I don't know what your email box is like, but mine would be 95% spam. Standing out amongst that list of averages is I still click on things and I buy stuff out of the spam, but 95% of it goes unopened. So the more we get these averages coming through, the more we're going to see that activity sort of shifts back into the noise. And we'll see, in my opinion, a resurgence of things like people cold calling. Then after a while, we'll be cold calling. So we'll sort of shift to something else again. But it is at the end of the day, particularly in sales, people having a conversation and agreeing, you've got a problem, I've got a solution. Can we commercially meet in the middle? And yes, let's do it and move forward. I don't think that process ever gets, moved completely to AI. I don't think it happens.
No, it's funny you say that. I've got someone out there cold calling right now, and one
Yep.
of the other methods that we've grown significantly from is networking, like face to face.
100%.
And until we have, well, now working on robots and stuff. So, like I
Yep.
said, I'll jokingly do my hail back to Skynet, but I think it's powerful, but it'll never replace. So,
Yeah.
is there any other final thoughts you want to leave us with?
Look, I think that those two key messages that I gave you before, I mean, if you want to build a great sales process, like start with putting it on a page. You know, I think that's just so critical and crucial to understanding what you're going to deliver. Are you clear? And then as it evolves over time, you're editing and changing by intention. And then that second message of, just being really clear of what's the problem you're trying to solve for your customers, making sure that you know what you're not versus what you're potentially trying to achieve. I think if you get those two key pieces right in any sales process, it gives you focus, it gives you clarity, and there's a really clear way to move forward. That's a lot of the stuff we talk about on my podcast as well, mate. Growth Pulse, the B2B sales podcast. I'll give it a plug while we're here. But it's, it really is, I think those two critical messages are just key for anybody in business. And it doesn't matter how big an organization you are, that those key focuses are always there.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's been absolutely amazing having you on. Thank you for coming along on the show today. And if you're listening to the podcast and you have any questions or you'd like to be on the show, you can reach out to us at relevate.com.au. Please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you're listening. And other than that, thank you so much. Take care, and we'll see you next time.